Welcome to Roundtable Discussions with Fjook, where me and my co-hosts Michael, Anthony, and Trevor discuss topics. I think all four of us have been outside the country to one degree or another. And by the country, I mean the country that we live in, because Trevor lives in a totally different country than us. Did any of you have travel plans at all for 2020?
Did we have travel plans? Probably. Did I? But then, I'm a poor student with the wonderful pandemic. So all of my travel plans are virtual.
Yeah, we were. So myself and my wife and my father-in-law and sister-in-law, literally, we were supposed to leave the day before the lockdown in March was first announced, and so we had to cancel our plans to go to the Dominican Republic, and that would have been my first time outside of either Canada or the US.
I said, haven't you been to Bengal yet?
No, I have not been to Bangladesh yet. We were supposed to go in, I believe it was 2018, but instead we decided to buy a house because there was a federal election going on in Bangladesh, and it's not necessarily the safest time for Western Europeans or North Americans to be visiting the country.
Are you saying that Bengal is not a safe place to go?
Bangladesh can be safe if you're in the right areas. Yes, we all know about, ISIS and ISIL in the Middle East, but there are quite active groups. There is offshoots of ISIS in Bangladesh.
Yeah, they have travel restrictions here. It's exercise a high degree of caution due to the threats of terrorism, as well as political demonstrations, nationwide hartels, which are enforced strikes and violent clashes, which can occur at any time. So, travel wise if you go to Bangladesh.
Yeah, well, my wife has family there, so we would have obviously been staying with family, and my wife is from the minority Hindus, so where her family lives, it's in a gated community. But again, once you leave the gated community...
I've been to the UK and America, and that's about it. And I'm pretty... Trevor, have you been to anywhere that is considered not as safe as the UK?
Okay, it's a bit of a tough topic. I find if you go on a government website, it seems to be a little bit sort of paranoid, and it needs to be so, to ensure the safety of citizens, etc. I mean, I've travelled the whole length and breadth of Russia, and I'd say I didn't have any personal problems there with time travelling and stuff, but I think it could be an unsafe place also. I mean, I've been in Mongolia, but I think unless you're a Chinese immigrant, you're probably going to be pretty safe because there's a lot of anti-Chinese mentality there. China I've been to, I felt very safe, didn't have any problems. The difficult question really. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Well, it sounds like you've done the most traveling out of all of us.
Oh, well, yeah, mate, well, it's just been a bit of a mantra of mine. I flunked out of school, I got a crap job, and I was like, okay, there's got to be more out there than this, so I just kind of work, save, travel was my mantra for a number of years, and that's what I did for a number of years. Work hard, save hard, travel hard, and here I'm now, 40, with no kids to tell it to.
Yeah, the furthest I've been is the U.S. and Louisiana, California, all the Disneyland trips, and then Canada, and then through Canada. So BC, and then the furthest east I've been is Ontario. So, not exactly the biggest explorer, but grew up poor and just didn't have a lot of opportunities. Chose different things to put my money into, and I'd love to travel more. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to once we get this pandemic in line, and go from there.
Yeah, well, amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. Like once the pandemic travel restrictions are lifted, we all have our vaccines. I think our plans will be maybe either going to Cuba or to Mexico because they seem to have a better control over the COVID pandemic than the Dominican Republic does. And then we do intend on going to Bangladesh before their next parliamentary election.
All those travel plans are heavily dependent on COVID, it seems.
Isn't it a fun time?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just interject, obviously it's going to be very different for you guys and how your government's dealing with it. I don't mean to be overly critical, and it's easy to be sniping on the sidelines. The UK government have, I think, been a little bit behind the curve of what's been going on. Having said that, we've got one of the most successful vaccine rollouts, so it's looking very positive. But currently, we have like a list of 30 red list countries, and if you come in from one of those countries and you don't declare that you've come in from one of these countries, you can get a 10-year prison sentence, which I think is a little bit draconian.
That's all right. We in Canada here, we barely track people where they come from. It seems half the time, and the penalties are pathetic. So you have the one extreme to the other. There's no problem if you come in Canada from a potentially highly infectious country, and the UK, you'll wind up in the slammer for 10 years. So
yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. I read an article about from a judge, and he was saying basically if he was brought to his court, he wouldn't impose that kind of sentencing, which is kind of good. But yeah, it's a bit of a funny one because obviously you can do a lot worse crimes.
Well, that brings up an interesting question, though, because I mean, in theory, if one person comes in and infected, that could cause another pandemic and another outbreak, right? And should that not be applicable as a crime, though, right? Because I mean, it's almost you're almost committing biological terrorism on an unsuspecting group because you didn't want to declare you're from a country that could potentially be infectious. Because you don't want to quarantine, right? And obviously that's quite a bit of leap in my argument there, but it's not too much different than ISIS or Al Qaeda strapping a bomb in a suitcase, walking into the middle of a street and blowing it up. So it's the same effect, a massive amount of people.
Point. I think the ideology behind it's a little bit different.
Definitely a different ideology. I will 100% acquiesce to that.
Yeah. No, it's a funny one. I mean, basically you have to pay for a hotel quarantine at the moment. So
ours is $2,000 a day.
Oh, that's joking.
So you will end up with a hotel bill of $2,000 a day while you are administrative a COVID test. You need a negative COVID test to leave one of the hotels.
So what you're saying, that's a minimum of a $2,000 bill.
Correct.
That's crazy. We're like I think it's 1,300. I don't know what the conversion rate is. It's 1,300 to 1,700 all in.
Yeah,
we're not talking 5-star. We're not talking 5-star at all. But
no, and the same thing with here, like here in Canada. And you should see some of the complaints that these people have raised. You can't order in food from outside to these hotels. You can't leave your hotel room. Food is brought to you. You don't get to call or room service. You're provided a boxed lunch, a boxed supper. And if you see some of the pictures, they look quite unappetizing.
Right.
And you're paying $2,000 for that.
Good old hospital food.
Probably. It probably meets the pyramid or food circle.
I've never been to a park like Disneyland. Are they fun as Disney makes them out to be?
So, in my experience, you have to go with who you're comfortable with. If you like a group, go with a group. If you want to go by yourself, go by yourself. Because that's you have your own fun. You make your own stories in there. The best time I ever had was actually when I discovered a loophole in Disney, which they have conveniently revoked. Thankfully, I wasn't the one that caused it to be revoked, but people who similarly abused the system absolutely did. My primary partner, Theta, she had injured her knee just from overusing it. She has weak ligaments, and so she was limping. A Disney attendant saw her and went, "Oh, give me a moment." Walked out with a wheelchair. Loved the customer service there, even though their pay is crap and the individuals deserve absolutely more for what they do. And so I was just pushing her around the park, taking the weight off, and we got to a line for a ride. And I'm like, oh, I would love to go on this ride. The attendant heard that, went, "Oh, hey, come over here," and they led us to a secret line. Now, this line was actually meant for like the permanently disabled people, and I'm just like, Yesterday, I went on 3 rides for 12 hours. I stood in line for an obscenely a godly amount of time. This is my golden kneecap. So you best believe that I shoved all my values of fairness and equity down that little pit, and the little kid in me just shoved her ass in that wheelchair, and we went flying to all the roller coasters I wanted to. It was incredibly selfish, I admit, but I felt as if I got my money's worth that day. Her legs got cold from not using them, even though she could. But unfortunately, it appears that I was not the only one abusing that system, that there were actually families who were renting out disabled people to abuse that lineup. And the line, because Disney noticed the line was getting longer and longer for that secret fast line, and thus the normal line was getting longer and longer. So it just wasn't feasible. So unfortunately, they had to cancel the program, and potentially, I don't know if they've reworked it or not. But yeah, it's the theme parks are certainly fun when you can do what you want. But unfortunately, the massive popularity of them, you have to kind of like have pinpoint time accuracy of when you're going to avoid the massive lines.
Yep.
Wait, have you been to a park?
Me? Yeah. So we did California. So we did Disney and we did Universal Studios in, I think it was 2017. And we had a grand time. And again, it was just me and the wife, and I think my sister-in-law. And so you just have to also make sure that, again, like was previously mentioned, just making sure that the group that you're traveling with want to do the same type of rides. I don't mind doing roller coasters, but that's not the only thing I'm going to do. Whereas my sister-in-law wanted to do all the roller coasters, and my wife wanted to do none of the roller coasters, so it was trying to balance everything. But we ended up having a grand time at both parks. So,
Trevor, have you been to a fancy park?
Yeah, we've got a few in the UK. I think perhaps one of the more famous ones that sticks in my mind is called Alton Towers. I'm not sure you've ever heard of it. I remember going back many years now. Girlfriend of the day, she used to love Alton Towers. She used to love the roller coaster. And on her birthday, I take her, and I absolutely get terrified, scared going on roller coasters. Oh, come on, Trev, come on. And it was always a bit of a painful experience for me. I like a bit. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, but only to a certain level. And I know. Well, we're not boyfriend girlfriend anymore, anyway. So.
See, with my ADHD, I'm a natural adrenaline junkie. I love getting that rush and feel, which is also why so many people with ADHD fall into addiction. I love roller coasters. The scarier, the better. Strap me in and throw me down a loop so I can go Mach 1. Whee!
Oh, there's this one particular ride, and it's not like conventional. You basically, the seats are sort of downward facing and hanging, you enter and it's normal, and then basically your bum lifts, so you're looking down at the ground. And I remember watching the first group on before me going on, and phones were coming out of their pockets, wallets were dropping out, change was dropping out, everything was dropping out of the pockets. It was a fun ride, actually.
Speaking of local parks, Michael, have you been to Callaway?
You know what? I have lived in Alberta. What now? I'm 34. Moved here when I was 18. So 16 years. I have never been to Callaway Park. Just I've looked at them like, it seems a lot like county fairs that we used to have back in Ontario. And, sure, there's a couple of good rides there, but am I really willing to spend like $200 on something I've already experienced?
Have either Anthony or Michael been to Canada's Wonderland?
So I've not been to Wonderland in Toronto, but I have done La Ronde in Montreal. I love La Ronde. La Ronde has, I think it's the world's largest wooden roller coaster, which is called the Monster, or Le Monstre in French. And then, so the first ride where I ever blacked out on was at La Ronde, and that was a ride called the Vampire. And it was the first time I've ever done a loop-de-loop.
Oh,
And it's not a seated. It's one where you're strapped in by your chest and your legs are dangling.
Mm.
So the first time that I had experienced that, the world went black for a few seconds.
Oh my!
Yeah, I was there with two friends, and the friends looked over at me, and I was limp at one point in the ride.
Oof, I don't think I've ever blacked out, but yeah, I love going to Canada's Wonderland. It has like the pirate ship spin. I love it. It's such a rush. Really, it's a theme park for kids at heart, right? I can always go there. I probably can't do as many as I can now, given my age and accumulated injuries. But someone say, "Hey, Mike, you want to head to Canada's Wonderland?" I'd be like, "Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to regret it tomorrow, but let's do it."
I will have to make a trip to Canada's Wonderland and the one that Anthony mentioned, whose name I can't pronounce.
So La Ronde, La Ronde would be like the circle, the world.
Do you have any travel plans after this pandemic's over, Michael?
Well, the Data and I, we do love to go to BC, and as we eventually are planning on moving there once I complete my education, 1.5 years away. So, getting to see the difference in all the areas that we've been to. Technically, we're half scouting out where we'd want to live too, right? So our plan was to go visit one of our friends in BC. We would love to go to Japan as well and spend 2 weeks there. But obviously, that requires a boatload of money. So, and then as well, we want to go to the UK and tour around there for a little bit. So plans of mice and men. So
I doubt you'll get as lucky as me and go with a school course for 2 weeks to London, England, like I did.
They do offer those through the college and university for international business students. It's just mostly that's from the marketing standpoint, and accountants aren't exactly known for their travel. So
I can't remember if it was micro or macroeconomics that which is the first year course which I took after getting my Bachelor of Commerce degree because I retook it because I wanted to go to the United Kingdom.
Huh? Nice.
And it was much cheaper than going on my own budget. Money.
Gotta get those block deals.
I really want to go to Australia sometime before I die.
Why do you want to go there?
If I had a real skilled job like electrician or something like that, I would be living in Australia right now.
I'll interject. I've done a year in Australia, actually. It's a very nice country. It's very young. What's completely different is I was in there X amount of hours, maybe 6 hours in. I was in a pub, and already I've got a girl asking me my number. And I'm like, man, this is does not happen back home. People are a lot more like forward, a lot more friendly, a lot more welcoming. I think if I was a younger man and if I had a stronger skill set than I have, and maybe if I had a family or something like that, I'd seriously think about living in Australia. Because I think it's an up and coming country. I think there's a lot more opportunities than there are in sort of the old Western world, as it were.
My younger brother actually lives in Australia. He went there for he had worked in Whistler in the ski hills, and they just love to import the Aussies up there to work the hills. And they managed to convince him to come down for a visit on a visitor's visa, and he fell in love there. And he's been there for just shy of a decade now. He actually just is on his way to become a full citizen now.
It's just a good life, man. It's a good life. I mean, I was there as a dirty travelling backpacker, but it's got a lot of pluses.
Mainly to answer your question, Mike, the weather there is much better than Alberta.
Well, I don't know, man. The 40 plus degrees. Oh, I'm not a fan of heat, so that is something I could do without.
We get that in Alberta, 40 plus. We also get negative 40 as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm planning on moving out, so it's not like I want to be here. It's been the province has been very good to me for sure, but eventually you got to move on.
So you're planning to move to BC. If I could, I would move to Australia. Do Anthony or Trevor plan to move out of where they're living at the moment?
I've been born and raised in the National Capital Region of Canada, and I think for the medium to long term plan on staying in the region. But when it comes to retirement and traveling, anything can happen. I know that the wife would probably prefer to move to a warmer climate after we're done working, so once we can retire.
As for me, well, I don't know whether you guys know, I actually have a Filipino girlfriend. So long-term plan is probably to go and move out there. That being said, maybe I'm going to take a slightly off topic. There's a talk in the pipeline about a thing called Canzuk, or Canzuk.
Yeah.
Essentially a trade deal between Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and Canada. Now, this potentially opens up more relaxed immigration laws, etc. So, for yourself, Fjook, you could maybe, emigrate to Australia. And for myself, Canada is always on my hit list of places to go. And it might be somewhere I might, potentially go and work for a number of years. But, we'll just see. It's just in the pipeline.
Well, I feel that's a good place to end this episode. So thank you for joining us. And
well, thank you kindly for having me. And you all have a good one. I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, same to you guys.
All right, stay safe, guys.
Yeah.